Good morning. I hope you had a good night's sleep. I had a wonderful night's sleep last night. Did a lot of physical work yesterday, and it felt good. So a bit of that, healthy soreness and a bit of that movement I had to do that to knock a few cobwebs out of my bones and joints, and I feel good. I had a proper night's sleep and everything, and I hope you're uh, making the most of this too. I know there's always going to be people who suffer from things like anxiety and emotional health issues who will find what's being done to us difficult to deal with. Ironically, people I've been talking to who have autistic family members have been telling me that the autistic family members have been managing very, very well during all this, which goes to show you what I've been saying for years, that maybe at some levels autistic people are the normal people and we're all the ones who are mentally ill. But this is a time of inner reflection and looking at yourself, looking deep inside yourself. This is me time, and not the world time. And that it's interesting if you can create a sense of dissociation from the actual COVID-19 hysteria, you'll find that you'll actually be enjoying yourself as a person better, because there's nothing else in the world to focus on, because the media has done us a favor because they're covering absolutely nothing else except this pandemic. So if you can shut that off in your head, which you should be doing anyway, other than a casual dip in and out, uh, you can find that you will be unleashing elements of your psychology and your cognition that you have not worked on before. So it's a time of self-learning. A gentleman with an impossible to pronounce Slavic name once said that a character is like a photograph, it develops in the dark. It's also interesting how many people I'd lost contact with in my life have all come back to me. It's almost like this is truly a reset or a restoration or the end of a cycle. It's fascinating to watch, really. And I mean, like, people I just like casually didn't hear from for a long time, that kind of thing. So there's plenty of people. Well, not plenty, but there are some people I'll never let back in my life. But the ones who floated back in, it's been lovely to see that. I've been getting a lot of phone calls from friends and stuff. It's been quite beautiful, actually. We're tribing again, and I'm very proud of my tribe. Everyone who should be in my tribe is in my tribe right now, and it's a big tribe, and it's oiled by love. Now, again, looking into yourself, building a character, uh, not appropriating blame, rather than a sort of getting a sense of understanding and like a sense of I mean, I actually, it's kind of weird. There's actual moments I'm actually bordering on bliss during all this. It's really strange. Like, it's almost like I'm feeling in love with life. That's again like on a very pure childlike level. And I know from the comments that many of you are leaving, you're feeling the same way too. Ironically, it always shows you how the psychopath is not like us. The psychopath thinks that they can impose terror upon us, but because they don't fully understand the complexity of our human condition, they what they think will put us into terror and loathing and fear and a sense of total horror turns around and becomes something that liberates us. How about that? How about that? Like, you say you have like a woman in an abusive relationship with a loser guy, and he's constantly insecure, and he's constantly, what's the word? Any fella who says anything nice to her, he goes nuts, and he says, I don't want you talking to him again, even if he pays her a compliment and it's completely harmless. And those types are nearly all white, potential. Well, it's a wife beater of a kind. They're using psychology rather than punches in the face. But believe me, when the chips come down, the punches will fly, and he gets away with it by pretending he's depressed and he's down and he feels sad, and I don't mean to do it. This type, and that's how he modulates and modifies the neurochemical things in her brain to control her and to keep his woman a prisoner. Now, the control grid works exactly the same way. It has the same agenda. It tries to make us frightened and neurotic rather than freeing us, because we'll be controlled if we're frightened and we're neurotic. And then if we get too frightened and too neurotic, they'll give us a little bit of hope. So you can look around you, look at all the meat golems, look at all the normies, look how they're behaving. We're all going to die. I mean, I was looking at an Irish Times article yesterday. No, a posting of an Irish Times article on Facebook, and it was about experimental drugs, and it brought out the rosary bead maulers are all back. Oh, sweet Jesus, Mary and Joseph, Saint Winifred, Saint Anthony, and Saint Paul. Oh, Jesus, Jesus, let them find a cure for the poor people. Oh, bless us and save us, bless us and save us. All these Irish cunts are all back. They're all back, and rather than people laughing at it, they're tumming it up, and all they're just going, "Oh, I don't want to die. Please, please, God, give me the experimental drug." This is like what they're like. So they control them that way. And then this comes out of like the Catholic Church really developed a lot of this kind of technique, the Jesuits. And then they will uh, they will say something like, "There's no new cases in Italy." Oh, sweet, that's wonderful. You get a little dopamine rush. So that's how it works. So we're the same way a woman is in her abusive relationship with a controlling loser man. It's the same way that we're in a relationship with a controlling loser political system. It doesn't really fully understand the dynamics. So they think they're all at home now, they're all going mad, they'll do exactly what they want. When there's huge numbers of us, like our tribe, who are like, "Hey, this is really nice," and they didn't expect that. They didn't expect that. We are the ones who break the mold. You see, they've spoiled themselves with their own bullshit. Like, you ever see like when they release the latest iPhone, they have these fuckers who either stand on who camp outside the Apple shops, and when the new iPhone comes out, they're forced to buy it, like they've achieved something. I'm an achiever. I got iPhone 15. I'm an achiever. I was standing on my longest. I'm an achiever. I got iPhone 15, made in a Chinese sweatshop. That's like what they're like. That's literally what they're like. And that's what they. You see those kind of assholes on the news punching his fist in the air when he's the first one to come out the iPhone 10 in, I don't know, fucking Buttfoot Junction, Alabama. And to them, that's an achievement in their life. And they show those things on the news. I'm an achiever. I got iPhone 10. I got a 6-inch dick. Oh, yeah. Those types. And uh, you've got to laugh. You've got to parody, and you've got to make fun of these people. This is how you thrive in society. Satire is the ultimate magical path in many ways for us these days. I'm an achiever. I got Trump deranged syndrome. I'm an achiever. Not my present hot text. I'm an achiever. Yeah, I'm feeling bad. I'm feeling bad because I can't get out to fucking do things I want to do because they're all bullshit anyway. I'm another achiever. Like a good kind of like bad 70s arena rock song, like a bad, like band. What kind of band would do that? I don't know. Oh no, some bad 70s arena rock band, grand, yeah, grand Bachman Turner Overdrive or something like that. But yeah, I'm an achiever. But yeah, so they think these assholes who stand on the iPhone. You just think about that now. The world is so clear. There's such tremendous clarity to the world right now. They think that they're. I'm not going to sing. I'm an achiever. I'm not going to sing. It'll become the new. I will not use profanity. It'll become the new version of that. But if I'm not careful, but but yeah. Yeah, and so they think that's normal, but when they don't know there's large numbers of us in our tribe who are not like that, right? So, we have art and creativity and hobbies and insights, and we know how to smell the roses of life, and that they don't want that. Now, so this leads me to an interesting thing. A lot of okay, Trump's to his credit said yesterday or today, I think it might have been today, that the he dropped the truth bomb, which Trump always does. He's a genius that way, right? He drops truth bombs, and he basically said that the Chinese invented the virus, which we've all known from the beginning. And I've been watching and looking at medical and virology. Medical blogs that have some virologists on them, and they were saying it was probably developed in a lab. It was probably an industrialized virus for whatever reason, and not necessarily a chemical weapon, but it could have been though. And it somehow got out. It somehow got out, or was deliberately released as a test. And don't say that's far fetched, because the Chinese government will do that in a minute. And don't forget that the CIA, it came out in Senate hearings that the CIA actually released germ warfare tests on the New York subways back in the early 1970s. So like this, don't kid yourself. These things don't go on. Now, the other day there was a bit of a hullabaloo. All the Trump derangement syndrome types, they were all going mad that like Trump had fired some of his expert team, and now it's starting to become apparent he was under pressure not to say the Chinese unleashed this on the world. And that's what that was really was going on, because even though they'll say you cannot say that China released ping pong pestilence because it's racist. And that's not the real reason they say that. The real reason they say that is because it's coming from corporations like Apple, who have their sweatshops over there, and all the other ones that like Amazon and the rest of them, who have all their sweatshops over there, and they're getting rich off them. And they don't care about the Chinese, but they don't want the average ordinary meat golem from saying, maybe I shouldn't buy anything made in China if they do things like deliberately release viruses that kill people all over the world. All old folks in Italy are dying because of it. And it's really the likes of Apple and these corporations who have their products made in China who don't want you knowing this. These are the ones who don't want you knowing they roast puppies alive over fires and eat them. These are the ones who don't want you to know that they crack the heads open on monkeys and eat their brains. They don't want you knowing this stuff. Not because they don't want you feeling racist or angry at Chinese culture and society. And again, like I said in the other video the other day, it's not their fault. They've been made this way by communism. They don't want you boycotting their iPhones. They don't want you doing that. And that's what the real reason why you have political pressure. There's not a moral imperative. They don't care about racism or bigotry. They care about Apple's bottom line. And that's the real reason you're told, and Trump was told to not say that. And now he's saying it, quite rightly. And that's the way it has to come out. Because China is not a good place. I'm talking to you on a Chinese-made phone, mainly because I can't find anything else. If there was a phone made in any country in Europe that was the same price, I'd buy it. But we're learning the price now for our consumer products and where they're coming from. And rather than punishing China directly by hating everything Chinese or starting a war, my suggestion of yesterday, which I think is happening organically, move the factories into other countries. Better still, bring them home. In fact, after World War II, there was a whole movement, not so much in America, but in the UK. Churchill, being a sneaky bastard and a psychopath, he didn't want all these British troops, I think like 2 and 3 million of them, suddenly coming back unemployed into England and in the UK, and suddenly finding out that they'd fought for nothing. So, because the United States did very well from World War II, so did Canada, but the leader of the British Empire was in ruins. There was nothing. This is why they created the NHS in a hurry, and things like that. So we had to bring them back slowly. Otherwise, you would have had battle-hardened men ready to overthrow the British establishment. And it took up to 3 years in some cases to bring British troops back to the UK from Europe. You couldn't let them all back at once. And so it was so slow and took so long. You had this bring the boys back home thing. Bring the boys back home. Remember, it was in the Pink Floyd, The Wall. They used to bring the boys back home, and that's what that was. That's what that was all about. And they were like, "Why?" That was the real reason they were kept abroad, is because the British establishment didn't want a potentially revolutionary army arriving all at once, finding out that they'd fought for nothing because England was in ruins, and nothing had gotten. It was actually in worse state than when the war started, and. Bring the boys back. So that's the way we should think about all these corporations in China. Bring the manufacturing back home. Bring the factories back home. Have the factories back in your country, in my country, making things, employing the working classes, and giving people trades and skills again. Again, we're having a reset here. You can sit there being all trutified and seeing everything as negative. I'm sitting here seeing it all as a positive. I'm feeling incredibly positive about the world right now, mainly because I know I'm not. I meet Golem Sheeple, and you're not either watching this, and our numbers are bigger than we suspected. Even it's coming. I'm noticing that now there's more of us now than we thought there was. And there's even people who may not be as talking about it as much as we do because of their social circumstances and so on, but they're feeling it and they're knowing it. And it's not right here. It's gone too far, and you can always tell the character of a person when the chips are down, and the character of a government. I was telling my Sri Lankan friends there, and they were saying that it's like a police state there now. Everyone's locked in their house, and if you want to get food, you have to order it and have it delivered. You can't go out and get it. And the police will see you on the street, they'll shoot you in the legs and things like that, and you can still die from that if it's an artery. But that's because the country's legacy of civil war. That's not long ago, and there's still a very, very big military presence there. Everywhere you go in Sri Lanka, you see the military everywhere. And so that's a reflection of a militaristic underpinning to that country as it currently stands. In Ireland, it's bureaucracy overload. You see where Ireland is very much a country being communist, being wealthy communist, like Sweden. You see, Ireland is really. They used to always say that traditionally Ireland was always referred to as a Mediterranean country in the wind and rain. We were Italy or Spain or Portugal trapped in the cold. And then that's changed. We're we're like Sweden, Denmark, and Norway with better weather. That's really that's really what we are now and have been for about 20 years. So that kind of Nordic socialist bureaucracy has really come to the fore here, and the welfare state is it's rising to this. I mean, they're throwing money at you here if you're unemployed. If you lost your job from COVID-19, they're literally throwing money at you here, and it's very interesting, and there's no complaints about it, and it's all everyone thinks the health service is fantastic now and everything after years of complaining about it, and you can see how that's changed, So, uh, so Trump said that, and I think I think and he says, I have to laugh at these people saying he didn't lock down the country. And like the Democrats are people of from Trump derangement syndrome are unbelievable. They're now actually saying, and this is the truth, that Obama or Hillary Clinton would have kept America open during this pandemic. That's how deranged they are. Uh, Even though the rest of the world would have been on lockdown, they would have kept America open. And this is how these people are. They're just dogmatic and partisan. They cannot think in logical terms. And we are definitely, and have been since the election of Trump and also Brexit in the UK, we have been entering into a post-political age. Now, what I mean by that is politics is moving away from left, right, centre, Republicans, conservatives, liberals, socialists, Democrats, Christian Democrats, liberals, liberal Democrat. It's all moving away from these these tags, and people are voting for who's ever talking the least bullshit, or who's ever reaching them. And they could vote for a nationalist party one year, and then maybe the next year, maybe someone who's slightly left wing, or maybe left wing, and then the following year vote for someone who's conservative, not based on the dogma. We're living in a post-political age. We're living in an age where politics is going back to what it should be: administration, not philosophical politics, but administration. And that's very important. And I think that's why someone like Putin has allowed to stay in power for so long in Russia, is because he's an administrator. He's a military man. He gets things done. He's a military man. He's a manager, not a philosophical dogmatic politician. And those days are over. They're gone. It's people are voting for who will do the administrative job the way I want it, rather than my family have always been conservatives. We vote conservative, or I come from a traditionally working class socialist background. Look how many working class people who voted for Labour, particularly in places like Scotland, who will never vote for them ever again, who will never vote left wing ever again, and. And you see how the rise of UKIP, they tried to make out that the UKIP was all a party of middle England people who play croquet on the lawn. The majority of people who voted for that party and were supported that party, a lot of them were ordinary, died in the world working class people whose family worked in mills and factories and coal mines. And that's why Labour died. Now, there are elements that are different, like Liverpool in England. That's because Liverpool is almost like a different country all by itself. It's almost like a piece of Ireland or something, or Scotland, trapped in the northeast of England. So it has its own thing. And also, they were treated horribly by Tory governments in the 80s and by the whole British establishment. So they're still kind of fighting back from that. But there, even there, you will see changes. People are not. I'm not. I'm a. I'm a Labour man. I'm a Conservative. That's all days. They're all over. That's all over. It's like, who is the best administrator, and that's what's happening. That's one of the good things as well. And that's why Trump was the right man for the right moment, because he was an administrator. He's a businessman. He's not a politician. And more importantly, he's not a Republican. The Republican Party are absolutely vile. You have all those neocons and those types, the Bush neocons and all the rest of them. They're just as horrible as Pelosi on the other side. The Clinton neocons, of the Democrats. And yes, we're living in a better time. We're living in a hopeful time. We're living in a time where uh, you know we're being washed up in lifeboats on a shore, and you can actually see a tropical island where you will thrive, or you can see a wasteland where you will perish. The choice is up to you. Search for the fruit and smell the roses.